Okay, hey, what's up?
Hello.
Hi, guys.
What do I hit over here?
Oh.
F.
Yes!
Yeah.
Okay. Alright.
Here
we go.
It's October 8th, 7th, 2012.
It's the 6th, actually.
It's October 6th, 2012, and this is the Adult Thumbs Ruinationcast. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
And I'm Sean Vanneman. Hey, guys.
Hey, guys. Okay.
Here we are. In the office. Oh, Jake's, are you a little off?
What?
Chris is...
What's wrong with
You
everything?
can see that Chris is not on camera right now. Other way, dude. Hold on.
Do we believe in dreams?
I think we believe. I think Chris is going to be in.
Is that it? Yep, there we go.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
Hello,
Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Welcome to the internet.
So, we have all of your topics, and they're in a list. I think they're in order by order of when you backed.
The order of people, it's either when they backed or when they responded to
It's-
surveys.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
first by ordered by tier, so lowest amount first, I guess.
So,
and then
wait, we shouldn't tell people that.
Yeah, that's
There you go. Good job. We'll cut that out of the podcast.
It doesn't end up mattering though, because they all ended up getting chopped up so much that like the order is very rough at this point.
People
so.
submitted some changes and other shit. So, one note on all this stuff. There are, how many are there total?
174.
174 people are helping us ruin this podcast, which means if we spend 1 minute on each of these, we're going to be here for 3 hours, and that's our ballpark estimate. But it also means we're going to be kind of blasting through some of this shit.
Some of these will be small, and some of these will be a little longer. So bear with us, and hopefully you feel like you got your money's worth.
Yeah,
some people had.
Also, if you are watching this right now live, you'll notice it doesn't sound like what it looks like. It looks like we're talking into our nice microphones.
We're talking into that webcam.
We're talking into a webcam across the room. So there will be an MP3 version of this later that hopefully sounds good. This one is just what it is. So enjoy that.
So enjoy this.
You ready to go?
Yeah, let's go.
Chris, first one. Number 1.
Alright, I guess I can't keep my iPad from turning off. Alright, so Glenn W. asks, what is the Mecha Goose?
What is the Mecha Goose, Chris?
So, Idle Thumbs, before it was a podcast, as some of you probably know, Idle Thumbs was an editorial site on the internet that Jake and I were involved in co-founding, along with several guys from the UK, including James Spafford, Merrick Braunstring, Alex Ashby, Ben Andak, bunch of cool guys, and Doug Tobacco, our web guy, was involved still from the beginning. And the Mecha Goose was a crazy Photoshop thing that I think Spaff put together that combined robot parts and a goose, and that's it.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be the device that brought the British guys into town for E3 2005.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Anyway, that's what the Mecha Goose is. This podcast is on a goddamn roll already.
Thanks, Glenn. Number 2.
Aaron Malone writes, I want Famous Vanderman to discuss his hatred of socks.
It's not that I hate socks. It's that I don't think socks have become perfunctory.
You have an actual stance on socks.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I just don't think socks are perfunctory clothing. That's all I think.
Okay.
So I think sometimes... I'm not wearing socks today, for instance.
Why?
What's the point? Don't need them. No chafing. Feet aren't sweating. It's nice and cool in San Francisco. Nice and cool in here. That's my stance on socks.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. This is going to be a long podcast.
James Spafford says, Merrick Braunstring.
Oh, Merrick Braunstring.
Oh, guys.
Left.
Guys.
More
Thanks,
men.
Spaff. Number 4.
Nolan says, do you have a favorite graphic novel or comic book? If so, what is it?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I would say probably my favorite is Preacher by...
It's actually the 7th. It is the 7th. My watch is off by a day.
Thanks, Jake.
It's October 7th,
Jake bought a watch.
2012.
You know what, guys? We're starting this over. I think we should start this over completely. Yeah, we're starting this over.
What?
Yeah, we gotta start from the beginning. Every time we mess up, we have to go back to the beginning.
Okay.
That's part of the Ruinationcast
True.
rules.
All right.
Yeah. So, Glenn asks... no, Preacher by Garth Ennis, I think, is probably my favorite comic series. I think it's awesome. It's really cheesy, I think, a lot of the way through, and I think it's really, like, schlocky, but it's probably my favorite comic series. Do you guys ever read comics at all? Like, I went through a phase.
Yeah, I went through a phase where I read a bunch of graphic novels. I haven't really read very much superhero stuff, but I went through a period where I read, like, Sean, do you know, or Jake, Jake, you probably know the publishers, like Drawn and Quarterly and Fantagraphics.
Yeah.
I went through a period of several years where I read almost everything that Drawn and Quarterly published, and like a few things Fantagraphics did. Drawn and Quarterly was my favorite publisher, so almost anything they put out, I ended up liking, which is a weird thing to be able to say about a publisher. But I just thought they had a really good catalog. So I liked guys like Seth was really I liked a lot, and I'm forgetting so much of the stuff. It's been years. Actually, one thing I read that's more in the line of like what you just brought up is From Hell by Alan Moore.
Yeah, it's great.
Which I liked a lot. I thought was really excellent.
Yeah, From Hell's really good.
Well, whatever. Anyway, that's enough.
Yeah, I really like Transmetropolitan.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
super. Jake's super into
Transmetropolitan is my favorite thing
Yeah.
because I enjoy that it's a fucked up weird story, but if it has weird sci-fi stuff, that's fine, but I really like that its protagonist is a journalist because I think that we don't have enough weird journalist protagonists. I think that they're the best. The best.
Ross Coven writes, When you updated Godi.cx with a list of your favorite games of 2011, I was incredibly happy to see my favorite Deus Ex take the top. With Chris liking it, Sean not so much, and Jake, well, we can probably guess. I thought it would make an interesting discussion topic. Any stand-up moments or stories you have to share? Also, will we see you at PAX this year?
You did.
You did. Maybe.
Maybe.
You could have.
Hope you did.
And so what was your stand-up moment from the new Deus Ex game, Jake?
I'm playing it for a minute.
You thought the loaded screen was choice?
Yeah, I played less Deus Ex than I would have liked, but there was one evening where me, Chris, Steve, and Nick Brecken were all playing at the same time and in Steam chat, which was like the night after it first came out, and that was actually one of the more fun things in a while.
That was awesome.
Yeah. But I didn't play into that game enough to actually like it. I mean, to experience enough of it to have an opinion on it. I did like what I played, but I just look at my Steam profile and be sad.
You're gonna be the one that has stand-out moments. I couldn't even the game.
I can't remember a stand-up moment. I mean, in general, I really enjoyed my first playthrough of the game, which I did as non-lethal. And I mean, in general, it was just really fun to try and approach, other than boss fights, which were frustrating and didn't allow that. Other than that, it was just really fun trying to approach every scenario with the goal of not killing anybody. I mean, it says...
You were successful in that?
I was, yeah.
Your playthrough?
Uh-huh. I didn't kill...
Did you ever accidentally do that and then go back?
No, I never did.
Did you die in attempting to not do it? A lot?
Maybe, but it's hard to say how that would have changed from just dying in normal fashion.
Right.
The one thing I will say is that until I completed the game, I didn't know if I had actually stuck to it or not, right? Because there were times where I'm like, I don't think I killed that guy, but I'm not really sure. And so when I got to the end of the game and the little achievement popped up for the non-lethal playthrough, I was incredibly relieved because there's no counter or anything in the game itself.
Right.
It's so that was cool. Mike Carey says, discuss the merits of an Idle Thumbs song featuring Jake Rodkin as Mr. Baboo Bird Noise.
The merits?
The merits?
I think you've left off two key letters, which is demerits. There has been a dearth of Idle Thumb songs, Chris.
That's true.
You're just going to own up to that 100%. That is a fact.
Well, it's accurate.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say about it.
I
mean, I've had so much stuff I've had to spend time on, especially with Idle Thumbs and other stuff. Like I just haven't had time for the.
Do people know what game you're writing music for right now?
I'm writing music for. Yeah, that's fine. I don't know if it's been announced, but.
Yeah, go for it.
Ruinationcast exclusive.
I'm writing music for Steve's game, Gone Home, which has been really cool. Steve Gaynor, Hot Scoops, our friend, is making a game called Gone Home, which I think he's talked about on the cast. Yeah, he has, at the PAX cast. And it's really cool. It's set in a house. There's no combat. It's exploratory, a lot of really interesting narrative. And I've been working on the music for it for the IGF build, which is going out. They're submitting quite soon. So if you're an IGF judge, you'll be able to play Steve's game and see my music in it. Anyway.
Awesome.
Yep.
What number are we on? Who's keeping track at home?
You were counting, but I don't know.
I think we're on
There's no
7.
numbers on this.
7 or 8.
Grumbeld writes, Idle Thumbs Con, when will it be?
2015, year of the PS3.
That was number 7.
Year of the Idle Thumbs Con.
You're calling it right now?
2015, ThumbsCon 2012. We're naming it after this year in memory of our Kickstarter campaign.
It would be rad to do an event, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
We think that's
Yeah,
really
we
cool.
think it would be cool.
We think it's fucking cool. We talk about if nobody had anything else to do, what would we do? That's kind of a long-standing conversation we have amongst
And
ourselves.
we've been batting around ideas, but they're all things that are very vague right now.
Yeah.
And
But I also think anything we did that was like, I can't imagine us doing a con, but I can imagine us doing an event, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
I can imagine just pulling a con.
Yeah. Well, we would take the money that people
We would take the money.
bought tickets for the con.
Idle Thumbs has been a long con, if that's what you mean. I mean, this
Yeah, you are experiencing Idle Thumbs Con right now.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're trying to get
we're
at.
not actually sending out any of those goods.
You mean any of these goods?
Any of these fine
Any of these
Kickstarter wares?
What a nice seg.
Look at this wizard print.
Look at this
Look at this
soft, artisanal, handmade T-shirt.
Look at this space asshole. For those who are not watching the stream, I'm showing people my space asshole.
Alright, right, so
thanks. Who was that?
That was Grumbell. So number 8.
Number 8.
Adam Connolly. As older gamers, we've experienced so many great moments and innovations in gaming. I have clear memories of being almost overwhelmed by the scale of WoW, being amazed at the early Sim and Civ games, marveling at the feeling of being in a real place playing Quake with 3D environments. Do you think those moments are over for us gamers? It seems like everything to come will be incremental upgrades and that whole new concepts will become more and more rare. Are the best moments of gaming behind us?
Before we answer that amazing question,
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a stream note, which is, since we're talking into the webcam, don't hold your iPad up between your face and the webcam when you're reading.
You're right.
Hi, guys. Anyway, we're just talking about what's going on because it's a stream. Anyway,
I've got to do the Sophie's choice of whether to talk
Yes.
into this microphone or the webcam.
just split the difference and make the whole thing sound bad.
Right.
Just mumble the whole thing.
Yeah, just mumble it.
So, are the best moments of gaming behind us based on? It's so funny looking. This is truly fucking ruined for what it's worth. Like every time, like eyes go like squint and look at the computer screen to read the chat. I'm like,
No one
just
cares.
talking to you. I'm talking to you guys. So, are the best moments of gaming behind us? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
But I do agree. I think all the moments that he pointed out, I remember, like it was yesterday, my first 10 minutes in World of Warcraft, and I was just flabbergasted, completely flabbergasted. So I really hope I get to feel like that again playing a video game.
I think that what's more likely to happen is that the best moments will go less from being technological watersheds to being just moments of extreme impact for one reason or another, be they, systems emerging, or be they just really interesting dramatic moments or whatever. I mean, I think if you look at other media like music or film or whatever, the first time somebody heard, music existed before recorded media, so the first time someone heard, like, Mary Had a Little Lamb recorded on Edison's wax cylinder, that was amazing, and like we'll probably never have another moment that is that seminal in the history of like the advancement of musical technology in terms of just fundamental advancement. But that doesn't mean that wonderful musical moments don't occur all the time. Like those,
Right, gaming is probably past its we're surprised that a train drives out of a screen.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, yeah, moments of fidelity-based wonder are maybe gone. But
Right.
Oculus Rift is coming
Oculus Rift will
Oculus Rift.
change everything.
That's true. Everything
Just
will
saying.
change pretty soon.
out. Let's keep a
Imagine
keep
playing
all cards on the table.
If you could play Super Hexagon with an Oculus Rift, I think that would be a watershed moment in gaming.
True.
Mostly because it would destroy your brains. Sorry.
Destroy your brains. I like the way you put that. It would
Fucking-
destroy your brain. It would zombie just
Yes,
destroy your brains.
I would play Super Hexagon in an Oculus Rift.
Oh my god.
As long as my
I
mind
would
could actually
have a
spin the thing
seizure.
around, that would be so good. That would
As long as
be
your mind
in,
gets
in a
spinning
sensory
around,
in a
you go
sensory
like this.
deprivation tank.
yeah. As long as there's just a node plugged into my brain that can spin the little triangle around, it would
Oh, that makes
basically.
me barf to think about.
Few things are more actual, like, gross cyberpunk reality than imagining those two things combining, and then just you walk into a cafe and there are 15 people all just sitting still with like a slowly cooling coffee in front of them because they're all jacked into Super Hexagon in their Oculus Rifts.
Right.
That's the first Idle Thumbs event. Yeah, calling it right now.
Oh, gross. Also, the notion of, like, just the speed at which you can think of things, like, just if you get distracted and suddenly the hexagon is just flipping out all over the place, oh my god, a million barbs.
Is the plural of barf barb?
It might be.
I think that sounds.
A million barbs is the actual name of this episode of the Ruinationcast.
So, John Funkhauser, this is number 9, I think, says, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Super fucking badass movie. Next.
Erky Limpair says, do I have to? Okay, what's your favorite word?
Ooh.
I have favorite words. It's 2 words.
What?
Video games.
Okay, good. Casey Griggs writes,
Oh, this is a 10 or 11.
Oh, we're always in.
I don't know. Casey Griggs writes, ideas for a game jam theme. Oh, there's this cool Twitter account, Peter Molyneux, and he posts tweets, and what if you make games based
God,
on
I thought you were
that?
about to say there's a cool Twitter account, IGN.com.
Well, there you go. That's
Make
an
it.
idea.
Yeah, make it.
That's actually not a whole.
A game jam themed around IGN review superlatives, disconnected entirely from the games which they're reviewing.
Yeah.
Right. It'll your brain will explode.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right.
That's basically just a game jam that says do whatever you want.
Yeah, but all of the games would just be fucking extreme,
That's
or
true.
probably trying for really intense poignancy that then
Yeah.
would have an ironic quote attached. Like, backport your game to an existing super laudatory review blurb so that it fades up in the, like, you give people the laurel leaf template that they have to type their review quote into, and every game has to fade that up first.
Right.
I would go to that game jam and play all those. Make that Idle Thumbs Event 2. Talk about Thief! Oh, I didn't say who asked us to.
That's the guy's name.
Talk About Thief asks...
That was number 12. Or this is number 12.
Okay. You still
Are you
said
gonna
this
say the
man's
guy's name?
name.
What are you doing?
Oh, I can't pronounce that guy's name.
Is he just
Well,
not?
I'll do it.
No, you do.
Jesus.
Oh, it's
His name is Anders Hansen. Oh no, it's impossible.
Oh, Anders Hansen. Anders Hansen asks that we talk about Thief.
Talk about Thief.
Thief is an amazing game. Thief was a
Next.
first-person stealth game that Looking Glass Technologies released in 1998, I think. The like most incredible year of gaming that's ever occurred.
Yep.
1998.
Yeah. Thief is really hard for me. I remember Thief being incredibly hard for me.
Thief and Deus Ex both crushed my face when I tried to play them.
Right. Hey, look at that! You're making the chat bigger.
I am, because I can't see. Sorry.
Jake needs to get glasses.
The only thing is, I was hoping to be able to see the preview as well.
Oh, I don't need to see the preview. I don't want to look at that.
All right, Thief's amazing. Thief was one of the games that made me think about games critically for the first time, because I was trying to figure out like what kind of game it was, and it like overlapped several kinds,
Right.
and that was surprising.
That was really hard for me when I was that age. Like when I was like 13, 14, 15, it was really, really tough for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a hard game.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's still a hard game.
Yeah.
David Turner writes, this is long. I'd love to hear Chris delve into how he's recorded things in the past. There's a New Year's resolution for me to record some songs by the end of the year. A coworker suggested I pick up an Okay, well, he's asking about recording. Okay, so the way that I recorded before was dumb and not worth explaining. So what we have in the office now is much better, and I will explain that. So we have a 8-track FireWire audio interface by Mark of the Unicorn.
Fortunately, it's by Mark of the Unicorn.
That's the name of the
Let's
company.
all just
Enjoy that.
enjoy that.
So it's an 8-track FireWire that goes into the Mac we have here in the office, and we are running 3.
4.
These are Behringer C1 condenser microphones that are supplied phantom power by the Motu, and we're running that all into Logic Pro on the Mac. My own recording for my own personal stuff is just whatever's there. Like, I'm not a good engineer at all, so when I will be recording anything for Idle Thumbs, when I record an acoustic guitar, I have a pickup on my acoustic guitar, so I just plug that right into the Motu. In fact, I have it hooked up right now, just going into an input. And then for vocals, I've just used... These are the same mics we used before, actually.
Yeah.
These have not been changed. So these are the same... Whenever I recorded my voice, I was recording into these in the past.
Yep. We're actually pretty pleased with the recording setup we have. One of the biggest things we wanted to do with the Kickstarter campaign was get a proper mixing setup that gave us unique channels per microphone and let us plug guitars in and let us do all this other shit. Because we used to run everything through one board, which meant that if anyone's mic blew up or if any of the levels were weird, we were just fucked and the recording was horrible. So it's actually really sick.
Yeah.
Like, we feel
It's a
kind of
real multi-track
spoiled.
setup now.
Yeah, it's pretty rad. Also, I'm just going to point out,
You can't read anything. It's so stressful to watch you squint like an old man.
Jake has needed glasses for a long
I
time.
need
He
glasses
refuses
It
really
to-
says
bad.
barbs. It says plural
No,
of
no.
dwarf equals dwarves.
oh yeah, the plural of dwarf equals dwarves, so the plural of barf is barbs. But Hilarious Cow, Aubrey, who a lot of
Hasselburn,
yeah, was talking about how he said he was planning on porting Proteus to the Oculus Rift, but Super Hexagon also sprang to mind. Proteus,
Awesome.
I would actually play
Yeah, that'd
be
Proteus
awesome.
in an Oculus Rift in a
That'd be
second.
awesome.
That'd be fucking fun.
That would look like the 90s.
Yeah, that would, roaming around in
That's the
pixel
correct
art.
art style.
That's the virtual space that you fall into is pixel art, pastoral greenscape. But if you were playing Proteus in an Oculus Rift and then the sky just tore open and Super Hexagon took over halfway through, then you would be fully in the goddamn 90s.
Yes, accurate.
Yeah.
All right, so Michael Kilpack writes, a development team is tasked with creating a biographical video of your life. Who should make it, what genre it would be, and if applicable, what would the first boss battle be like?
Ooh,
Is the
first
answer
boss
to,
battle
like,
being
thumbs?
born.
Thumbs collectively, or like individuals?
What?
And who develops that? Jake?
Who develops that? I don't know.
Epic.
Epic? It's Cliffy B's new project, actually. He's left Epic to pursue Your Life Story, one of the three of us, the video game. What's the first boss battle, Chris?
It's going to be hard to top Being Born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Busting out? Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the first...
Okay, that was...
Yeah, I think you
that
answered
wins
that
that
right.
one.
Okay.
Sure.
What are we doing here?
Oh,
Okay.
we're still back. Here we go.
Martin Peace asks, if you could be a tree, would your pine cones roll down a hill like a grenade in Far Cry 2?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of
I mean,
course.
what else?
Yeah.
What
Yes.
else? What else are they gonna
All
do?
right, Ben.
Physics.
Ben says, design a Waluigi video game. Is Waluigi as a character a comment on class war or on creating fiction? Why does Waluigi hate Mario? Does he hate him at all? Wah. Love CPO on the forums, XXX. I don't know if Waluigi has any feelings towards Mario. I imagine Waluigi, really, his strongest feelings would be towards Luigi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, he strongly believes Waluigi is number one.
Oh, yeah, he's...
So he probably does have beef with
I
Mario,
feel like
then.
he's going to win, and he
Mario's a
might
bit
be
of
the
an
number one
egomaniac.
party star. What?
Mario's an egomaniac.
I always wanted them to make a crazy Waluigi game that was just like a psychedelic nightmare. Like, just where Waluigi is like a crazy puppet master, and you're just like, it would probably largely be on rails, but like, you were just going through this crazy, like, fucked up haunted house that is Waluigi's domain. Like, I always wanted that to.
Wait, you want a Waluigi game where you are Waluigi, or where Waluigi is in control?
Well, where Waluigi's in control.
So if Luigi's Mansion, like, 4 is actually Waluigi's Mansion, where Waluigi has built the ultimate, like, this is his masterminded plan for all these years, has been to put Luigi through this just horrible nightmare dreamscape.
Yeah.
I would also like a game where you play as Waluigi.
Yeah.
Because I think that would be fine as well.
Huh?
Because Waluigi is the best.
Also more likely to exist than the game that I proposed.
Well, maybe it's both.
Oh man, that's actually better. If Waluigi is in
what if you're playing as
his own making?
Yeah, well, no. What if it's that's actually the best? But I was gonna say if it's the flip side of Luigi's Mansion is that it's like it's Dungeon Keeper, but you are Waluigi building this crazy haunted house that then an AI Luigi or like evil genius.
Well, that's the twist. Is that after you build that thing, then you as Waluigi have to go through it.
You thought you were building it for Luigi.
Turns out it was a
It turns out Waluigi is actually just Luigi's Tyler Durden. Like, Waluigi isn't fucking real.
You make this whole thing explicitly for Luigi,
and then you wake up and you are Luigi.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Waluigi's Mansion, you are Luigi.
We've done it.
Thanks, Nintendo. I mean us.
Joel McCoy, that's what
like
he
15
writes. 38 Studios / Big Huge Games, MMO Celebrity Money Hole drags Rise of Nations devs into cold earth. Thoughts? Well,
it sucks.
They're gone now.
It fucking
Yeah,
sucks.
it sucks a lot.
Yeah, it does suck.
And I feel like everybody thinks they know more about the situation than they do. I think there's actually it seems like it's very contentious.
I'm sure it's a crazy, complicated.
It sounds
clusterfuck.
fucking horrible.
Yeah,
I do know that
think
Kurt
that-
Schilling's bloody sock is bank collateral for like a lot of financial shit that's going on right now.
I mean, I think the thing that is obvious though is that it's not managed very well, and it's gone now.
Well, I mean, you've always made a good point that if like you're setting out to make like it is. What did you say? It's utterly reckless to try to make a large scale MMO like that.
Yeah, to try to make a AAA fantasy MMO is a fairly irresponsible
bold
thing
move.
to do at this point. I think
Yeah.
we're going to go up against World of Warcraft. I mean, World of Warcraft is even declining right now in terms of total user base. Like it's just, it's does not sound
No one
as
can
well-
hear me.
I said
Pandas.
Got
not
those
sound as well as
pandas.
they as people expected. Anyway,
Weird. A full actual expansion pack based on an April Fool's jokes, not hitting the numbers the way that people thought that it would.
Tom Clyward says Monty Python.
That's true. Monty Python.
I actually have something to say about this.
You have something to say about Monty Python?
I do, in the context of Idle Thumbs. When we were doing the original run of Idle Thumbs, when it was Jake and Nick and me, I about halfway through that run, I was watching a lot of Monty Python's Flying Circus on Netflix because they had the whole run up on there. And I started getting extremely influenced by all of the crazy structural shit they did on that show, like just nutso things, like starting the show with the ending credits, like after 5 seconds of sketch, or like looping things forever in weird ways that make you think something was wrong with what you were watching. Like they started just doing, as they made more and more of that show, they started getting more and more extreme in the crazy formal experimentation they were trying, and that absolutely, like in retrospect, seeped into my editing of Idle Thumbs.
It's really funny that, like, okay, I'm actually going to keep talking about this for a second too, which is going to just blow, like, all of our answers are way longer than we thought they were. We're fucked on this Ruinationcast. But it's funny to hear Monty Python as a legitimate influence, because the thing that I often think about when I think about Idle Thumbs and what it means to me is, like, I think of Hunter S. Thompson style gonzo journalism stuff, and it's funny that we're like, Monty Python, Hunter S. Thompson, like, those are just, those are the things that everyone always cites as just bullshit, stomped on, tropey crap that someone who makes a funny thing in college thinks is good, and it's frustrating to me because I don't know how to talk about that in a way that makes any sense. But
I mean, I definitely, if you listen to old Idle Thumbs, like I don't know what the word is, mid-run Idle Thumbs, I can't remember what episode numbers these would be, but like stuff like the Salacious Crumb episode, Salacious Thumb episode was the most extreme. That was less Monty Python-ish, but like, see, I can't even remember anymore. But I just remember doing a lot of weird things where I was messing around with editing and putting things in weird orders and like just trying more extreme stuff. And I think eventually I kind of went overboard at times. But like, yeah, Monty Python was actually a really direct influence on that stuff, which is really weird. Okay.
Video Game Baby.
Michael, right, Video Game Baby was ridiculous. Michael Clamorous writes, what was the last game you played where you were really impressed by the story? I really like what you guys are doing with Walking Dead.
Oh, thanks.
And Steve's game. I mean, like, that doesn't, I don't know if that counts because it's not out yet. But
it's God.
But I played it. Like, honestly, the writing Steve's doing, that, you guys have played it, right?
Bits and pieces. I really have been so wrapped up that I haven't really played it.
But I have the new build. It's really well written. It's really impressive. Like, it just operates in a sphere that just no other game I've ever played is about the things that game is about, which is impressive. Like, that's a ballsy thing for someone to
So the two games that you're citing are Steve's game and
that's
game?
why I'm like sitting here
also,
crunching through games.
No,
I'm almost at that too, son of a bitch.
We're horrible people.
There's got to be an answer to this. It isn't a douche.
That doesn't make you a douche.
I want to spend time thinking about this. The question deserves it, and the reader deserves it. You doing, Chris?
Can't tell if we're dropping frames. Someone said restart the stream. Just keep
going. Oh, okay. Great writing. Or story. It was the story, right? That was... We're horrible people. Because everything that comes up is like, oh, I really like... It's just something we've already talked about. I mean, the ones that are obvious is like... I still was like really, really like ensorcelled by the story of BioShock. Like, it's still... As big as that game got and as recited and cited as that game is, that thing had me. That thing had me, and I blew through it in 2 sessions, maybe. And it was completely for the story. I didn't give a shit about the combat or the systems.
I think it's one that we talk about a lot, but I thought Bastion did a really good job of having story stuff woven in. That's awesome.
The thing that I liked about the story stuff in Bastion is how integrated it is to the gameplay experience. And I thought they made some really brilliant choices about how to get that story out without it being beat a level cutscene. Yeah, I thought that stuff was awesome.
Yeah, the way that it, like, there were those moments, like when you'd complete a level and go back to the hub and the story would come in, but it always felt like it was this full, like, you didn't notice that it was happening because the same stuff was going on inside of the game. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. And I think Greg Kasavin's like a tremendous writer.
That guy's solid. Also, a game that just came out on iPad, and I think iPhone as well, maybe, I'm not sure, The Last Express by Jordan Mechner, which is the narrative stuff in that game is fantastic. It's one of the very few games to experiment with not with kind of real-time stuff on a time scale going on in an adventure game context. The whole game's on a timer, and so things are happening.
Last Express.
In The Last Express, yeah. Things are happening at a certain point in the game, whether or not you're there to see them happen, which is really, really cool. It's got, it makes it a little weird to play, but it's totally worth playing. It's on PC, you can get it on GOG.com, and it's also on...
PCDL?
It's PCDL.
Oh, wink. Someone suggested that we do a Last Express Saturday stream, which would be, that would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be weird, because that would basically be a Let's Play. It would be
it would be a Let's Play, but I think it would be kind of cool to do.
Yeah.
Dogby asks, what is your personal favorite game anecdote? A game anecdote is an awesome thing that happens in a game that you remember for all time. because of marketers, you might know it now as emergent gameplay. I don't know if marketers
I don't think
call it.
that's a marketing
I think
term.
that because of game designers and dorks on the internet, you know it as that. I think marketers hate that phrase and would never put it anywhere.
No, they would never put that.
I think a marketer is fucking scared of that phrase because
Yeah.
it means be afraid of the game doing not a prescribed thing.
Yeah.
This is maybe a weak example, I don't know, but for me, one of the things that still sticks out as just crazy moment that happened in a game was the first time that I played Little Big Planet 1 on multiplayer, like, which is not probably the sort of thing that you guys would talk about, but that is always totally, like, it's burned into my brain. It was you and me, Chris, and 2 random guys on the internet, and it was just 4 of us through complete nonverbal communication, just through like little hand gestures and guys walking around, finding ourselves in a level where we had to swing across 4 huge vines as a collection of 4 guys, and the feeling of crazy teamwork and camaraderie, and just like all of us were best buds, but none of us actually knew who the other person was, but we managed to accomplish this thing where 4 little sack boys grabbed onto each other's legs and arms and swung, and then everyone jumped off at the exact same time and everyone grabbed onto the thing, or like someone would just barely grab a foot, and we'd spent like a half hour just trying to get across 4 stupid little swingy foam things, then finally accomplishing that was like, that was a crazy amazing moment for me, which is weird because it's 4 faceless burlap sacks in a multiplayer PS3 platform.
But they're also like it feels like there's 2 like main like systems that are like thrusting towards that towards that moment in that game, and it's obviously the level editor and the world design, but also just the character animation and the systemic, like the
little bit
every
thing
aspect of the character physics is about
where we sort of developed a little thing where everyone can just sort of
go.
go, okay, where you can hit the triggers and it makes your arms move, so we all sort of were saying, okay, 1, 2, 3, no, and then it's like, no, don't go on 3, go on 1, 2, 3 now, but like having to communicate all that just by like waving guys and like frowny sad face and like, oh man,
that stuff is so good.
That was a crazy just thing that is in a game.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So...
Do you want to talk about other ones of those, or do you want to just move on?
I can't think of one now, so I don't want to just sit around thinking.
Okay.
So Sean Tawney says, Jay Allard. Oh, yeah.
You mean Jay Allard, CFO?
Office Dog?
Yep. Matt writes, uninformed player choice / player agency. I'll email an example of what I mean to questions that I will thumbs down now. Well, too bad, Matt.
Oh, God.
Well, uninformed.
You done fucked
what
up.
was it again?
Whoa!
We probably did.
We probably fucked up.
What do you mean we fucked up? We told people what this was. You put in the thing and we talked about it.
I'm willing to blame myself.
Yeah, I'll take the blame on that, Matt.
What was it again?
Uninformed player choice / player agency.
I wish, an example.
Oh, I mean, actually, I can talk about something. I don't know if this is what he means, but I have something to talk about.
Okay.
No, I have something to talk about episode 1 of The Walking Dead.
Alright, go ahead.
So...
Which might not be what he's referring to, but it's your interpretation of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, whatever. I'm going to give the guy his due, especially if we can get to his question. So, originally, the structure of the first episode of The Walking Dead was as shipped, but there was some internal turmoil about the choice being really heavily featured in the game, and people wanted that front-loaded. So we decided to do sort of to basically take the end choice of the game, where you choose between saving one person or saving another, and put it at the front of the game as the first thing you did. It was
episode 1 got turned into a frame story for a little bit.
Right, and so when you're running out of, at the very end of the episode, when you're running out of the drugstore with Clementine, and Larry throws open the door and punches you in the face, on that punch, you were supposed to go back in time 3 days. And it wasn't working. And it was in there for far too long. So I ended up putting it back the way we had it. But it was basically because it was uninformed player choice. I thought it was choose between these 2 people.
No one could contextualize anything.
Yeah, everybody on screen knows each other, and you don't know any of them.
Yep.
So make a choice, and the choice didn't matter at all. Just an anecdote. I don't know if that gets to the point of the point you were probably making in your email if you sent it. I'm sure you did. But anyway, thanks, Matt. Sorry.
Mike Mariano says, "What will the upcoming Thief 4 need for it to feel like Thief? What do you want added?"
I don't have a strong opinion about this. I mean, I think those guys did a really good job with Deus Ex Human Revolution, making it feel like Deus Ex in the ways that I think matter. And I think it's less about it needing a bunch of specific things and more just about it holistically retaining the feel. Like, in other words, there are any number of things they could probably take out or add, and it would still be fine regardless of which specific things those were, as long as in aggregate, when you play it, you still get. I mean, it's a hard thing to define because I don't want to like start defining individual components that they shouldn't have. You know, but like I do trust those guys having done Deus Ex Human Revolution to do a good job with Thief 4.
I'm ruining the game.
The next thing.
So, where are we actually?
Asif Khan says journalists cheering during E3.
Journalists cheering during E3.
Does that happen?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
during press
happens
conference.
all the time.
It's a thing that bums me out, but I also feel like you have to just like whatever. Journalists are going to cheer during E3. Journalists cheer during Apple press conferences. Journalists cheer at Google I/O. Tech press is tech fans. I wish that line was more clean than it was, and there wasn't crazy cheering when someone announces their sales numbers at an event that you're supposed to be reporting on as a journalist. But it's just getting grumpy about it isn't going to make it not happen. I feel like.
No, but that doesn't mean you don't have an opinion on it.
Sure,
I'm not crazy about
my
it.
opinion on it is I wish that people could separate that stuff.
Your
better.
opinion is probably, I mean, cheering at that is symptomatic. It's not like that's not the problem, right? I mean, it's kind of it's just something that bums you out, but that rabbit hole goes deeper.
Yeah, it goes.
That's true. It is
Yeah.
like being so personally invested in the success of a particular corporation that you are like just fully bought into all of their spin that they're announcing the thing. Like I think that's not good for a journalist to be in that mentality.
Yeah, it's frustrating to think about the fact that you could be at one of those events covering something, and the fact that you are looking displeased at the events or looking completely passively at what's happening means that you'll get scowled at by other reporters who are there who are excited about that's the intermeshed nature of being a cheerleader for a company and also being a tech writer of any kind is frustrating, but
Yeah.
it's what happens, I guess.
I think it happens less outside tech though.
Yeah, no, it's all tech. It depends.
Like if a film studio held a press conference about its financial results, I think it would, or some kind of conference in which financial results were part of what they were sharing. I think you wouldn't find a bunch of film journalists cheering about it.
If it's a thing where they're also announcing their upcoming production slate, you would probably hear applause.
Maybe you might hear applause. I don't think you'd hear cheering. I mean, I'm totally speculating on that, but I don't think the way that stuff tends to be presented tends to encourage.
That's fair, but I think that tech press has its own issues, which are people applaud at press events. Film press has its own heinous other bullshit where you go to a junket and an actress shows up and then everyone just asks bullshit questions about their clothes and their diet, or like people just ask Robert Downey Jr. about his stupid that's.
I think that's slightly different in the sense that might just be what their audience really wants.
Sure.
For a particular
but that's saying that tech journalists are not writing for an audience who just wants to hear exact, exuberant coverage of what Apple has announced, which I think is why those people exist. Those are feeding their exact readers. I think there's a one-to-one. It's not those people. I think people who.
But when you read most actual write-ups of game industry press conferences, they actually are pretty bland and nothing. Like they tend to be.
That's true. That's weird. We're probably talking about this too much.
No, that was look at that natural tension that was happening right there. That was amazing.
Gross. Daniel Herrera asks, "Hey, it's Daniel.
Hey, Daniel.
Says you've traveled
Also,
back.
I just want to. There's something that someone in chat says that I totally agree with. It is Howdy Y'all says, "Stay away from the buzz and stop being controlled by it, and you can still keep enthusiasm and originality," which I think is totally.
That is true. Yep. That's really well said. Daniel Herrera says, "You've traveled back in time and are allowed to bring any one video game with appropriate console or PC or hardware to play it to let your 15-year-old self play. What game do you choose?
Ooh.
What game do you drop on your 15-year-old self?"
What was I playing when I was 15? I can't even remember.
Well, probably the stuff you were just mentioning, Thief and Half-Life and stuff like that. Wasn't that all
that's
1998,
true.
99? Yeah.
When I was 15, I was playing Full Throttle.
Yeah, same here. I was definitely playing Full Throttle.
You were.
You weren't 15.
No, but I was playing Full Throttle when you were 15. So I was
Yeah.
playing when I was 11, 12.
I don't know. That's a good question.
That was a really good question.
The stuff I was playing is really different than the stuff.
Yeah,
I
I think my 15-year-old self would probably actually, honestly, respond most strongly to just something with crazy graphics combined with emergent shit. I would probably end up dropping.
I think. I know what it is.
If I threw Crysis at myself when I was 15, I would probably shit my pants because I was playing a lot of first-person stuff at that point, and also just had no way of fathoming what art would look like. But at the same time, I have no idea what I would actually like. Half-Life 2 would probably make me shit my fucking pants. Like a Half-Life 2 episode or Portal, one of those games would probably...
Portal's a good one.
Portal would fucking crush me, actually, because I loved adventure game stuff, I love narrative and comedy stuff, and also I liked first-person stuff. So if I threw Portal or Portal 2 at myself in 1995 and said, this is what a video game is going to be like when you're an adult, I would say, thank fucking Christ, that's what video games were like. Also, I wish I was old. And then I would go find a fortune-telling machine and tell it that I wanted to be big. And I would turn into Tom Hanks.
Okay.
And I would play Portal 2, and it would be awesome.
Oh, just like Big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would use a giant keyboard, piano keyboard interface to play Portal 2.
Well, what you don't know, actually, is that keyboard that he's dancing on is actually just pointed at a Kinect. Yeah.
They don't show you
that.
that.
Plot point that's,
In this version of Big, when I grow up and become an adult, I also travel in time into the future, which did not happen in that film, but it's different in mine.
Okay. Good question.
MC Wilson writes, "Where's the best place to get breakfast in the Bay Area?"
Ooh, there are a lot of favies. There's a lot of things that people like. Dottie's is
JP says that. Yeah, I corrected myself. Sorry, JP pointed out I'd just be old in the '90s. Please, this is Big 2. This time there's time travel in it. Best food.
Breakfast. Yeah, people really like Dottie's. I've only been there once. Gosh, I don't go out to
Kate's
breakfast.
Kitchen and the hay is good.
Yeah. Brenda's is so good. Brenda's is where you want to go. It's like Cajun brunch in the Tenderloin, or kind of like a Little Saigon area there, right by Saigon Sandwiches. Actually.
Okay, yeah.
Brenda's is super good.
Cool.
Yeah, and they just expanded, so it's easier to sit there now. Yeah. Let's go to Brenda's after this.
Desiro says, "Jake, talk about some classic Macintosh games."
Go play Dark Castle.
All right. Jesse Cobra says,
"You just named one. You didn't talk about it. Why?"
We gotta have some of these be short.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go on. What should it number? Because I realized that we could use the episode counter. I could just click forward an episode to number
until we just get to 75. We need to use 3 Moves Ahead episodes because they actually have a back catalog of notes.
Still gonna just keep clicking through episodes.
Oh, so we actually.
I guess you could play Deja Vu.
No, I'm just clicking.
Oh, just for yourself?
Yeah, I don't know. They look nice.
You're just looking at them. Oh, you see, we got them in the little window.
Yeah, it's there. Don't worry.
Pathways into Darkness. Sorry, JP is correct. Play fucking Pathways into Darkness. Go play some Bungie games from before they fucking sold out. Daisy and survivalism in video games, says Jesse Cobra.
Love it. Absolutely.
We've talked about this a lot, actually, by this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've also been playing Tokyo Jungle,
but I'm leaving. See you guys.
See you, Jake.
Bathroom. It's an infinite Ruinationcast. I have in and out privileges.
That's true.
Ruinationcast.
That's true.
Alright, go ahead, Chuck.
Maybe I'll take your seat. Yeah, I'm taking your seat while you're gone.
What? No, you're gonna fuck with mix.
Yeah, I mean, Tokyo Jungle is like an arcade game where the entire the thematic premise is survival, even though the mechanical premise isn't as based in survival as something like DayZ. But I still like it a lot. I think it's you get in these sort of rhythms of eating, taking over territory, and mating, and dying, and it just it's
like
just,
you do.
But exactly, you know what I mean, though. Like, and when you have these packs of babies following you around that then are dying off as you're trying to survive, and then you have like 2 it's amazing. It's really great.
Yeah.
So you're continually like mating. You get like a few pups or little like I don't know fawns or whatever you have, and then you're running around these districts. But as they're dying because you're fucking up or they're getting poisoned or they're starving to death, it's great because it's an arcade game where the mechanics just feed right into that theme of survival. I don't know. I like survival as a theme, period.
Yeah,
I think it's really cool in games.
I think it overlaps with stuff like Thief, which is people would not call it a survival game, but you have to think about a lot of you essentially survival is more important than like killing a guy in Thief,
right?
For the most part, because if you start getting seen by a bunch of people, you're in trouble.
Also in Dota, don't die.
Yeah, right.
If you're gonna get Dota, just don't die, and you'll be helping your team.
Yeah,
that's the best advice. Run away.
Fake says, wanted more adventure game hybrids like Quest for Glory and Adventure RPG. Yeah, I've always wondered that too.
Yeah,
in fact,
about that a lot.
One of the things I've always wanted desperately is for BioWare to make a game that is like Mass Effect, not like Mass Effect 2 or 3, but like Mass Effect 1, but with no or very, very little combat in it.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know why no one really ever does that. I guess because they just don't think the market's there, which is too bad, and maybe it's not. But I've always thought that would be really cool.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
And also Quest for Glory, that was a fun game. That did have combat in it, but it was fun.
I also don't mind when things like character interaction and dialogue trees and sort of environment puzzles and character puzzles show up in games with violence in them. But that stuff always feels really hardline disconnected.
No, I don't mind either. I mean,
I think it's cool.
I just think it would also be cool to have one that wasn't about combat.
Yeah.
Fred S. says, what terrible games have you felt compelled to complete and why?
I don't have completion
I rarely
compulsion.
finish games at all, so I don't have that issue.
And I actually have the opposite issue, where it doesn't matter how close I am to the end of something, that if it loses me, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
Like, I probably have 5 episodes of Lost I haven't seen, and they're the last 5.
Uh-huh.
I put probably 9 hours or 10 hours into Dead Space, got all the way, felt like to the end, and you can kind of tell where you are in that game, and they lost me.
Yeah.
So I have no really idea how the first Dead Space ends,
I'm
even
like-
though I put, like I said, between 9 and 10 hours into it.
I'm like that with games heavily, but I'm actually not very much like that with other things. Like, if I start a book, unless I really despise it, I will pretty much always finish it. And, like, a movie is the same, although a movie's short, so it's not a great comparison. But with games, games are just so long and so repetitive that if it's really just not excellent, or it doesn't have to be excellent, but if I'm not still finding something that's worth playing, I'll just stop. And so I actually finish almost no games, because I think there's actually relatively few games that have enough going on that for like 8 straight hours, not that I have to play them in one sitting, but for 8 hours, there's actually interesting, worthwhile things going on. Like, that's very rare.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to be just really repetitive.
God, what's so tough about the Ruinationcast is so much of our flow and our enjoyment of doing this is going on deep tangents where we'll start with, we don't even, when we do the cast, we're like, what are we starting with? But that's all we ever do. Because we know if we have something strong to start with, and we've all played a few games, that we'll eventually just keep going down these rabbit holes. And all I want to do is go, on this.
Well, we knew that's what we were going into.
It just didn't hit me until now.
Telko writes, how can we encourage people to stay off their cell phones while driving and in public?
I don't know, Jake.
Yeah,
I have
Jake
no
is the
idea.
worst at this.
Jake drives a manual in San Francisco, and I will see him texting while I'm in the
It's
car
the
with
worst.
him. And I'm
Actually,
like, dude, you're
actually
gonna
is
fucking
horrible.
murder me. If
You
I
have
die
many
because of this,
decades of your life left for for statistically something to happen.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to lay off that because that realization has occurred to me.
Yeah.
Jake's got a whole hands-free system installed in his car.
I did.
That
It's gonna be,
Yeah.
And you have Siri now.
I know.
You should be fine.
I'm good now.
You should just Knight Rider that shit.
Yeah.
I don't know how to encourage people though.
Kill
Make
them.
cars less safe. Everybody should just drive around in a 1971 like Chevelle.
Just make them have to be present all the time.
Right.
while
Yeah,
they're-
yeah. Just, if everybody was in a what the hell is that car? A Corvair, that'd be it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing is a coffin.
Oh, that was Telka, not, sorry, that was not.
Oh, it's Telka. Thanks,
Telka,
Telka.
yeah. There's an exclamation point, which I originally read as an L.
Oh.
Peter Thalen says, motivations and general thoughts on Chris's career move going from press to industry, differences between the two, pros and cons, potential disillusionment of gaming press. The motivation was I was recruited, so it wasn't like necessarily a motivation per se, although...
You were recruited. What does that mean? Sorry, in which...
I mean, I was
What are
recruited,
you talking about?
I was recruited by Irrational to not be in the gaming press anymore. In other words, I wasn't... It was something that sort of happened. But it was the case that for several years, in fact, most of my career in total across both, most of the people I've known and hung out with have been people on the development side. And I was, at the time, writing for Kama Sutra, which is a development-oriented website. So I think I experienced less... When I went to Irrational, I feel like I experienced less of the kind of like shock that some people describe when they make that same... Like, most of the methods involved in making games and like the structures and practices were actually familiar to me already.
Right.
So it wasn't really that surprising or jarring.
Were you a little surprised, just in sort of... For me, I think that we have a new employee at Telltale who started this week who's awesome. We were talking on Friday. He's like, I don't feel like we did a lot. Like, we did a ton. You actually did a lot today. And I was like, this was really valuable, this was really valuable, this is really valuable. I was like, that's it? I'm like, if we have 100 days like that in a row, we will be fine. The problem is there are days when it's just failure after failure after setback after setback, and you don't solve problems well. And you're like, well, this is never going to happen. Were you surprised by how much of that is there? Or just being in the game press and seeing so much
I don't know if I was surprised. I mean, it is different, because in the press you have to release a ton of material onto the internet every single day. So it is very different, but it's not surprising. I mean, I prefer it. Like, I prefer working towards something over a period of time.
Like project-based stuff and stuff.
Yeah. Like, that's one of the reasons I've always liked doing Idle Thumbs related stuff. Is that well, the podcast obviously is just content every week, but like, whenever we try to work on something in the long term on Idle Thumbs, I always really like that.
Like the website, or these fantastic T-shirt Kickstarter rewards.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know, I love this shit.
It's the best.
I definitely also, though, realized that Irrational is great, and like, I work with a lot of awesome people there, and I'm sure Bioshock Infinite's going to be really, really cool, but I definitely learned, and this is not specific to Irrational, but I definitely learned I am not as into AAA development, and being a Double Fine is awesome, and like working on smaller projects. The overall company's smaller, and the individual projects are even smaller than that, and that's something I really like, and that's something that I think I want to stick with. That's definitely a thing. And that's also not very surprising for me, because everywhere I worked in the press was small. Like, I never worked for GameSpot or IGN or a big site like that. I always worked on very small teams, and like Idle Thumbs has always been a small thing, and so I think I just naturally gravitate towards that. Are you
I guess, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought you just...
Do you know where we are?
Yeah. Allison Hussey says, I'd be interested in hearing your guys' thoughts on the weird undercurrent regarding video games and sexuality/gender.
Well, geez. This is probably the absolute wrong forum for that.
Yeah.
We'll give it 60 seconds.
I am glad that there's a discussion going on right now, though.
Yeah.
As compared to there just being no one acknowledging anything ever.
Yep.
Because it's like, it would be really hard to deny that games are overwhelmingly targeted at and kind of just assuming that their players will be males, and like there's a lot that comes along with that.
Yep.
And the audience can reflect that in ways that are not the best, and so can the industry at times.
Yep. Yeah. We also have talked about this on the cast a little bit. I made an analogy which confused you guys.
The Thing analogy.
That crazy alien from The Thing. But yeah, it is good.
It's really kind of like The Thing, Allison. So watch that movie and get back to us. Thanks for your question. There's no girls in that movie. The Thing is female.
Matthew Amend says, what was your favorite band in 1996?
What year was 1996?
What year was 1996? Well,
how old was I? Simpsons Sing the Blues.
Simpsons Sing the Blues is like, that's
way
like 92, 3.
I was always really behind on music because I didn't have the internet and I lived in a small town in Wyoming. Yeah. So my musical taste was really bad. So I would listen to stuff that my mom was.
Mine was probably Weezer.
Yeah, that was way too cool for me.
My favorite band in 1996 was probably the Squirrel Nut Zippers. And that was the only time that I ever listened to a band at the time that they had a thing that was actually charting.
Oh, really?
That's my one fixed point in time where I actually had a CD that someone else might have had. Otherwise, I've just been hopelessly behind for the rest of my life.
Drunken Bob Dole says, what will you do with the rest of the money?
I think the first and second rules of Kangaroo Jack apply. The first and second laws laid down by Kangaroo Jack in his capital H film, Kangaroo Jack.
We're about to spend a Brinks truck of it sending all this crap to you guys.
Yeah,
so let's see how much we have afterwards.
We actually don't know how much money we're going to have left after we ship all this stuff, because shipping is expensive.
Once the shipping plus international shipping occurs, a disaster will happen. But
there was a time, actually, I think this is worth sharing. Early on, when we were putting up the Kickstarter and we were asking for figuring out how much we wanted, we sort of assumed that half of it was going to be fulfilling the rewards,
and we still assume
that has scaled.
Yeah.
So the amount of extra money we earn in the Kickstarter is not directly like a one-to-one relationship to the amount of extra money we'll be left with at the end. We also kind of lowballed it originally, which at the time in terms of how much the rewards would actually cost.
Yeah.
Because we started doing crazy things. Like, I don't know if we've mentioned this to people, but like on the internet anyway. But like we actually paid to do crazy things. Like, instead of having regular cloth tags, we actually paid to have the tags
Here, I'll walk over.
removed
Yeah, walk
and
it
then
over there.
screen print a custom designed label onto the shirt itself. So, like, we ended up actually spending a fair amount of money
Yeah, so you can see
doing
there we
cool
go.
things like that.
And this one, each of them have like a quotation or like some sort of like copy in there that's. It's either this one's just got like a one line.
Yeah, that one
text.
just has random stuff in it, but the
But
wizard
this one
shirt
has.
there's
Should I even read it?
don't give it away. Let people
People can read it when
But
they get it.
there is. I'll just show how much there is.
you'll show at least the
Yeah.
amount of content, the amount of editorial content which comes included in every wizard shirt.
There we go. It's in there. Anyway. But like that stuff that like, you know, the thing that was cool about going over was that, and this is something I think philosophically we'd always wanted to do, which was just do the best version of anything we're trying to do. Like if we're printing Graham stuff, go to the best printer in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
If we're doing shirts, do the nicest one.
Yeah,
that
we
can
went
do.
bananas on that stuff because we wanted all this stuff to be really nice, given that people gave us a lot of money for it.
'Cause we had to de-tag these shirts.
Yeah, we had to have a guy be paid to remove the tag so that it's like we're dumb.
But we're really happy to be able to do that
Yeah,
stuff.
we're really pleased with the quality of all that stuff. But it means all dollars will disappear into that, and then the rest of the money, we're not giving it back.
No.
I mean,
Certainly.
we want to give back to you by spending the money
Not
on
the dollars to you.
no, no money will be returned.
Joel Miller says, what game
Directly.
conference do you look forward to most each year, i.e. GDC, E3 PAX, and what excites you about it?
Definitely GDC.
GDC,
GDC,
followed
yeah.
by PAX probably.
Yeah.
But GDC by quite a lot.
Yeah,
I
it's-
love.
GDC is the thing.
It's so expensive to go, so it's not you're not advertised to the whole time you're there.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of it, but it's
There
not,
is advertising,
but it's small.
But there's no equivalent to walking through. Like,
There's
it's not what E3 is in its entirety, which is huge room of people yelling in your face with big flashing signs. Like, that doesn't exist at GDC. Like, there's a recruitment hall where companies set up booths to try and like attract applicants, but like
yeah.
and show things off. But there's no. It's not ridiculous. It's not an arms race of boom
There's
boxes.
no like giant made out of Sculpey dragon that
Right.
shoots real fire out of his
Yeah.
face.
And the-
not
and
that he'd be
And
made
the,
of Sculpey.
yeah,
but you
and
know
the,
what I
the
mean,
bulk
yeah.
of what you do during
Fiberglass.
GDC is like go to interesting talks by interesting people and just meet up with other interesting people and talk about interesting things. Like
Yeah.
that's like we've been going to GDC. I don't know about you, Sean.
Yeah,
but
I've been
Jake and
going
I have been going to
since I
GDC for
was-
like 8 years, I guess.
A million years.
A million years.
I was
And-
sent
or
my
9
second
years
year
now, I
working at
guess.
Disney, which was awesome. Being like 22 and going to GDC was mind blowing, and I felt like a speck on the
Yeah.
earth. I
Like
felt
Jake and I started
smallest-
going before
yeah.
we were employed in the games industry, and it was definitely
Yeah,
one of the
we
things
started
that-
going because Idle Thumbs existing as an editorial site meant that we could have we got it as
Yeah,
press
that's yeah.
because Idle Thumbs is a legitimate journalistic
Yeah.
outlet.
Yeah.
Um,
That was 2003 maybe.
something like that. It was when it was
Yeah.
in San Jose still.
Yeah,
But-
and yeah, GDC's the best. Okay, Matthew Wegland says, I disliked the playstyle change from Command & Conquer 3 to the fourth one, and felt that it was just response to the criticism that the third iteration didn't change anything in the formula. What's your opinion on shifting playstyles like this in an established franchise?
That's a good question. I'm not for it unless I think I'm not big on long-standing franchises as it is. Like I don't really like
I'm not either.
sequel stuff, but I do think if you're going to go down that road, I think you should iterate in an effort to expand and be clever and not change for change's sake.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think also it depends a lot on what the game is, and I think with something like a strategy game, you should acknowledge that the vast majority of people playing your game are playing it because of what it is mechanically more than anything else, and like that's, like when you're,
So let's talk about Far Cry 2.
yeah.
I don't think. Well, I mean, I don't feel like Far Cry 2.
You might want to wait. I bet somebody's going to ask about that video game.
It's just Far Cry 2 is a weird example to me because Far Cry 2 shares that there's a big open jungle world with Far Cry 1, and that there's bad guys in it.
Yeah.
But
what's
it feels like all other systems were thrown out.
like what though?
I don't know.
I feel like
there's no supernatural else stuff in it like there was in Far Cry 1.
But isn't that more thematic?
Yeah, but that was the whole combat style that was based
Yeah.
on guys running at
The
your
whole
face.
the whole way that the encounter system worked in
Right.
Far Cry
Oh,
1
that's
was not iterated on in Far Cry 2. It was trashed entirely. The way weapons work, trashed.
Also,
like it's just
all of the disaster stuff, that just things that can personally ruin you, was all added in Far Cry 2. That didn't exist in
Yeah.
Far Cry 1. Like, the game didn't feel like that at all. Like, it just felt like a different game.
But the Far Cry 3, I don't know enough about it, but to talk about this, but it feels from the way that they're presenting it, at least, like it's closer to Far Cry 1. Except apparently there's wolves in it. That
It feels
that
out, and
attack
I
you.
feel.
You think
I
Far
feel-
Cry 3 is its own other thing?
a little bit to me. Having this
Okay.
played 5 minutes of it at PAX, it feels like Far Cry just becomes a sort of like banner of open world.
Far Cry means you're out amongst
Open world
tropical
violence.
plants
Yeah,
of
yeah.
some kind.
Also published by Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, because I mean, that's really the signifier is Ubisoft needs a thing to use a brand name for, is essentially what that is. Like, I think if I was a I liked Far Cry 1 actually, but if I was a super, super huge Far Cry 1 fan, I probably would be irritated by Far Cry 2, and I think that's totally valid and legitimate. And like, Far Cry 2 might as well just have been its own game. Like that, I mean, Clint Hawking had and his team had a pretty particular thing they were trying to achieve with that game that was pretty different from what Far Cry 1 tried to do. And like that, obviously a publisher is always going to do a franchise if they can, but like just purely outside of financial considerations, that might as well have just been its own game with its own name and called something.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Anyway,
This is gonna take for fucking ever.
yeah, it really is.
We're about a quarter of the way through these, so
Are we really?
yeah,
What do we? Oh, cool.
yeah.
Okay.
But that means we're averaging. This is going to be 4 hours long.
So Darridge writes, interactive narrative versus games, or just interactive narratives in general. I enjoyed Heavy Rain, though I recognize it had its issues. I've heard others compare Jurassic Park and The Walking Dead to Heavy Rain, though I haven't played either of them. Just wanted to hear your thoughts on this interactive narrative taxonomy. Is it a genre you find compelling even if it doesn't offer emergent gameplay, or is it too limiting and closes the system to be enjoyable over time?
I want to expand on it. Obviously, Jake and I didn't work at all on Jurassic Park, but kind of like looked over the.
We observed
looked
it
over
from
the wall.
over a cubicle wall. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people really are digging The Walking Dead, and I like it because it's a nice canvas in which Jake and I can do some of the things we're good at. But what?
Sorry, we just read the next question. Go ahead.
Keep going.
And but I think I personally want to push it, but I think I like it. I mean, I think there's video games, and this is Jake. You are not one thing. Video games don't just have to be one thing to be good. And that goes back to like us in the office. You were playing Super Meat Boy, and I was like, ugh. It's like my one regrettable like what is game.
We're like Super Meat Boy,
So-
and then you came back around on that though.
like I find myself not playing a lot of them, but that's also because not a lot of them are made, and not a lot of them. There's not a lot of like voices out there that
I guess
that have my attention right now.
Yeah. There used to be a lot more, obviously. I mean,
Like I wish it wasn't just Jake and I and a couple other people. Like the Telltale, I guess. And
Steve's up there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
What's
fucking stoked
really
for that
interesting
game,
about Steve
you know?
is that he comes to it from such a different angle, but I think it's going to result in not a similar play experience because I don't think it's going to feel like playing The Walking Dead. But
Right.
like, I think a lot of what that game delivers will be similar to what Walking Dead is, which is investment in character, story, narrative. And it's funny because all of Steve's influences are immersive sims like System Shock
Right.
and Thief and games like that. But he's coming from another angle, which is come from that and rip out the combat. Where I think
Sure.
you guys are coming from it from the other angle, which is starting from a more adventure
It's
game
funny.
like.
I think when we
No,
actually
I completely agree with
when we first started working on The Walking Dead, we were probably actually coming at it more from the angle that Steve was, where he said,
No, he's right.
yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, we were going from like adventure game establishment towards something like a System Shock.
Yeah, I guess that's
He's
true.
coming from
I guess
something like
that's true.
a System Shock coming
And-
towards
yeah, that's
adventure
true.
game establishment,
We-
whatever that means.
yeah.
Like this sort of like character
to me, I think
interactive narrative.
the thing that's appealing
that's
to me,
accurate.
yeah, that is
What
actually
we were
accurate.
doing, I think, had we gone unchecked and shipped the game that we started out to make, it would have been even.
we were gonna we aimed for the stars and we hit the moon. Fortunately, the moon is red. A thing I'm gonna just keep talking apparently because it is a thing that's kind of interesting to me about this.
Fuck it,
We're just going.
I have no plans for the rest of the day.
The thing about this is interactive narrative, like Steve's game versus The Walking Dead, versus other games that sort of appeal to me in this way. The thing that I like when games treat the person who's playing them as a human being, regardless of whether or not the story is the focus or whatever. I think the feeling that people get out of games where the story is the focus is more, it's a game that's concerned with how you as the person playing it will react. It's concerned with how you as the person playing it will feel when certain things happen, versus the thing that I think everyone focuses on all the time is the opposite loop. It's, I press a thing on a controller or on a screen, the game funnels my input through a bunch of colliding systems, and some new and unexpected thing pops out on screen, and you as the player go, oh, that was cool. I pressed the button, I interacted with this thing, and a cool thing happened. But the flip side of that loop is, I think, what makes people respond to narrative-based games. It's when the game does something with the knowledge that you as a fully formed human being on the other side of it are going to have a response to. I don't know how to describe that exactly, but I think it's a thing that goes undiscussed in game development often, where it's like people are going to think this is cool, people are going to think this is neat, but the discussion ends there. Like, I mean,
can you give an example of
well, I think environmental storytelling does a lot of that actually.
Yeah.
It's like, there's like bloody sheets on this bed, and then next to the bed is a photo of a woman. You're like, all of a sudden, the game just assumes that you as a human being know how to like observe a space and imply narrative, and I think that's some of what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I guess I can talk about it in the context of The Walking Dead, which I didn't really want to, but I feel like The Walking Dead, it's a way more coarse example of it than I think I would like to see games pursue. But that game, Walking Dead, is pretty thin on actual mechanics, and all that The Walking Dead does is present some sort of event on screen that requires you as a person with a brain that has back history as a human and as sort of a person who's lived in society to have to deal with it and then input back into the game and see what comes out. There's not a lot going on the game side of the screen, and I would love to see games that do both.
Yeah, me too.
I guess.
Yeah.
Because it feels like we get systemic games that are all about you pushing things into the monitor, or we have like The Walking Dead or adventure style stuff, which is more about is how do you respond to pre-baked narrative content, and I don't know how that works in both directions, but maybe Steve's game will get closer to that. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Hi guys.
Duncan Fife writes, the Alexander Hamilton Aaron Burr duel.
So,
oh my gosh!
All that I think about this is just wiped out of my fucking brain, but it's the Got Milk commercial. That's all. Yeah. Which the thing is that Duncan Fife is from New Zealand, so he probably doesn't have that commercial in his brain.
Oh, hold on. The goddamn Blue Angels are here. It's Fleet Week in San Francisco. I don't know if you guys heard that.
But yeah, all that I think about is the guy who knows the answer to the call-in, but he ate a bunch of cookies or something. Sorry, Duncan. The Alexander Hamilton Aaron Burr duel.
I told you the Blue Angels are here. What, Robin?
Ruined. Yep.
I don't know. It's fucking rad. We had a president. We had a vice president.
Yeah.
No. Or was he just? He shot a guy. Hilarious in a duel. We've had 2 VPs. If he was a VP, I can't remember. Shoot people.
He was a P, I think.
William
Henry Harrison says.
William Harris says, what one thing do you want to most see in a game that you feel no developer has figured out or addressed yet?
I love that. That is legitimately an F-16 fighter jet.
Jets
or
are
whatever.
basically flying over the office right now. It's Fleet Week. We're good. We've replaced the sirens on the Ruinationcast with jet fighters. It's the new. We're up in the ante for the Ruinationcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that I want to see most is someone figuring out how to do a truly systemically driven game that is not combat oriented, but still deals with a human existing
Like The Sims.
in a non-supernatural world. Like,
I get you. Yeah. I hear you.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Next,
You're walking around living in a place, being a human being, and you don't have to do violence.
Dan O'Donnell says, schizophrenic camera in first-person games. I can't be the only one bothered from the switch to first to third person in first-person games. Oh, I see what he's saying. It really breaks me out of the experience. I'm thinking along the lines of Deus Ex Human Revolution and Skyrim here. I think pick a perspective and deal with it. Skyrim, can you choose, or do they put in those things? In
Those
Skyrim?
death cams?
Yeah, I don't. That kind of thing I really highly dislike.
Mm-hmm.
Where you can't choose, and suddenly the game decides this is an awesome looking animation. You need to see it. Let me pull you out so you can see a guy shiv a guy in the neck. I find that really not good at all.
A long time ago, Jake and I were noodling around in the tool, and
which is the Telltale
the
game.
Telltale tool, and we were thinking about what it'd be like to have conversations in third person, but like engage the game in first person. And I don't know, like we fucked around with that for a while, like just independently of nothing, independently of everything, and I don't know. I don't have a fully formed opinion on this. But I don't like it in games the way you're describing. I don't like it in Skyrim, and I don't like it in Deus Ex.
If it's a game that is intended to be an unbroken, fully experiential, you are inside of a world like Skyrim, when the camera pops out, that's really frustrating to me. But if it's a first-person game that's deliberately really mission-based, I don't give a crap if when I...
What do you mean by deliberately very mission-based?
Halo. It doesn't bother me that
you mean when you jump in a vehicle and it pops out?
Yeah, or like when you hit a narrative choke point because you've completed some kind of objective, and then the game pops into third person for a minute. That doesn't. I mean, I guess it should bother me. I dropped my phone instead of coming back, but I don't think that Halo would be a stronger game if it maintained a first-person camera throughout the campaign.
No, and Halo's a game where I don't really care about the narrative at all. So
That's fair.
Well, it's true. I mean,
Yeah.
like when they break out of the first person when you get into a vehicle, that's good because it's actually good for what you're doing as a player.
Right.
Whereas, like, I mean, that's a case where it would actually the Halo vehicle control was a massive improvement over vehicle control.
Right, but like, it's funny because in Half-Life, if Half-Life popped out of first person when I got into a car, I would love driving a car, and I can't abide vehicular control in Half-Life 2, but it would ruin that game's feeling for me completely.
Well, and Valve has, like, put their flag in the ground
Right.
with that stuff in a way that Bungie hasn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh man.
Jose Arroyo says, when the next generation starts, all major console manufacturers will essentially have to rebuild their markets from scratch. PC gaming, on the other hand, will have a market in the 30-plus million, according to the latest statistic from Valve and Steam. Should major publishers continue to ignore PC gamers? That statistic's probably higher than that, because that's only Steam. But in any case, no, I mean, they shouldn't. I don't think they are continuing to ignore them, though. I mean, I think more games are coming to PC than used to, in terms of, like, major publisher stuff. And I think it's pretty obvious that that's a meaningful market.
Yep.
Juka writes, a friend of mine, also a Thumbs listener and backer, made an iOS platforming game called Tiny Hawk. Maybe you could mention it. If that's too advertising of a topic, as an avid cook myself, I'd be interested in each of your signature dishes.
Ooh, I can make spice-rubbed pork chops that are probably the best thing I do meat-wise. You know, they're like super thick and you like brine them for a couple days. Adam Perry Lang is a barbecue chef. He's got a good book out there. And if you want to know how to cook meat and take a long time doing it and use a lot of ingredients, that's the dude you want to use.
Cool.
Yep.
Jake cooked once in 2003, and then again in 2007, but it was on accident.
I will happily make a plate of pasta for you if you want it by putting the noodles in water. I can make a mean pop
Pro Easy Mac chef.
Easy Mac is gross.
I make a pretty good tomato sauce. I've never bought a can or jar of tomato sauce in my life. Or, like, by that I mean pasta sauce. That's probably a Nordic name that I'm terrible. Right? You have a budget of $10 million, 2 years, and all the staff you need. What kind of game would you make?
What? I have a budget of how much?
$10 million and 2 years.
2 years.
I mean, very similar to what you. I mean, I would make a non-violent single player, like
Something.
interactive narrative, but with pick two systems that I thought we could deliver on. Yeah, probably a really think of probably like The Walking Dead with better controls. To be perfectly honest, with no zombies and a world of my own.
Maybe
probably a
PlayStation.
larger world, right? You've been talking about
Yeah. I would say definitely less instancy the way.
Less vignette.
Yeah.
That's probably also what I would do.
So if you have $10 million and you want us to make a video
right,
game,
please.
please write in at questions@adultthumbs.net.
Biz. James Murray says, what, if anything, do you find uniquely interesting or exciting about gaming as a distinct medium? Must it necessarily be a systemic form of interaction? For example, I think due to the simplicity of modeling and convincing 3D space, all the games I've found most exciting in recent years have had exploration as a fairly central theme, be it open or in many cases a directed and ultimately linear experience. What other forms of storytelling and expression lend themselves well to gaming or could do in the future? I think exploration, I agree. I think we agree.
Yeah.
Is a big thing for sure. Like that's what we've been talking a lot. Like Sean and I, Sean, you and I have been talking a lot about that stuff recently. Just that sense of like scale and like ability to allow the player to kind of draw from the world itself and all that stuff. It's really good.
It's Biden doing push-ups with some little girls.
Is that on the thing right now?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, what you probably mean is here. Let me just
hit some buttons.
There we go.
There we go.
That's what the world needs. Yeah. What are we talking about? Games?
I don't know if you have an answer to that right now.
What are we interesting and excited about games as a distinct medium? Games are video games.
Good point.
Chris writes.
Chris.
Oh, hi, Chris.
What'd you say?
Well, he says, since my main non-video game passion is food, what are your favorites? Do you like to cook?
Yes.
Yes. I make a spice rub pork chop.
Oh god, okay.
So Eric Vallone says, talk about roller derby. Ever been to a bout? Should EA do an annual roller derby game?
No, I have some friends who are really into roller derby down in LA, but it's hard for me because I don't like. I don't know. Those girls hurt each other, man. But I think that'd be a really hard game to make. That'd be a fucking hard game to make. To make it feel.
It would probably be a really arcadey experience.
But just that many like skeletons who are also roller skating, who
colliding.
can all hit each other.
Crazy.
To
Like
be
making
good,
bumper cars.
to be good, that would be so hard.
Yeah.
If the bumper cars had tentacles, Chris, yeah, arms and stuff, you know, like
I see.
yeah. Tentacle bumper
You could have
cars.
said if they have arms.
Or tentacles. Clearly, you've never been to roller derby.
True. Edmund Tran says, I'm interested to hear the Idle Thumbs origin story. How did all the individual casters come to meet or be introduced to one another? Initial impressions of each other that changed over time or didn't, and maybe the events that led up to the birth of the first Idle Thumbs podcast if you have time.
So we've talked about this quite a few times. The beginning of it, at least, Idle Thumbs.
We should talk exclusively though how we met, because I don't really know how you guys met. Let's start there.
Chris
That's
and I
something
met.
we can all share.
Chris and I met on the forums for AdventureGamers.com because Chris and I were both regular.
This was in like 2001.
Yeah, something early 2000s, and it was when
When's the first time you met in real life?
we went.
2002.
We saw the Triplets of
Triplets of
Belleville.
Belleville.
Yep, when that played in
You guys
the
went
theaters.
on a date? You guys went to a
No, that's all. We both wanted to see a movie, and we had no other friends who knew what it was.
But you guys were living in the same...
We were in the Bay Area.
Jake was in Santa Cruz and I was in Berkeley.
And it was only playing, I think, in Berkeley, and
Jake drove
yeah,
up.
and I drove up and we saw a movie.
Oh, that's really sweet. The first time I met you was at a movie.
Up.
Which one?
Up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We all watched
Animated movies.
We all watched cartoons together. Aw.
Yeah.
But yeah, we
We saw The Incredibles together, too.
Oh, we're getting a flyover. Excuse me, we paid for this flyover. Your Kickstarter dollars at work.
But yeah, it was me and Spaff and Merrick Braunstring, who all did adventure game sites together, had met at an E. Like we had covered a couple E3s in a row for these like super adventure game focused fan sites, and said we're tired of adventure games. Let's start another site. And Chris's name was like the first name on the list, other than the three of us, to work on that site before it launched or before anything happened. I think because you were editing at Adventure Gamers, but. The reason the podcast started is because Chris and Nick did a Shack News podcast for a while called the Shackcast. That sort of faded away. And I think I heard you guys on the Shackcast and was jealous of the fact that you guys did a podcast. So I said to Chris, would you ever do a podcast? And you said, I think Nick Brecken would be a great third seat. He just moved to San Francisco, and that's the only story behind that.
Yeah. And we started doing it having no idea what it was going to be about or how to do it.
Yeah.
And we still don't.
And we still don't. Hey!
That's why there's no segments on all the time.
What are you blooding up there over there?
This is true. That's too late now. It's going to be apropos, but we can...
Oh, it's too late. Sean, I worked with and we got along well, and I think Sean, you just hung out with us a bit for a while there.
And I knew about Idle Thumbs because I saw Dave Eggers wearing the Idle Thumbs.
Your first Idle Thumbs experience was on a GDC cast.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, remember I came on after doing that talk.
That was Phaedrus.
That was
the
Phaedrus.
birth of Phaedrus.
Gosh.
When Will Wright did that Phaedrus talk. Yeah. But it was just, we all just kind of knew each other through work or through the internet. Actually, Steve showed up because we knew about Steve because Steve submitted articles to the editorial site.
Oh,
just
yeah.
out of the blue. Steve
2005.
read some stuff that we had written and seemed like...
Steve was a reader of Idle Thumbs, the original site.
Yeah, and he submitted stuff for publication. And
in fact, I still have the email that Steve sent.
Oh, man.
Where he was like, I think you guys are cool, and I would like to write for your website.
Yep.
This was all before any of us were actually in the industry, for real. So we've all known each other since before. Well, I haven't known Sean that long, but me and Jake and Nick and Steve have all basically known each other since before any of us actually worked real industry jobs.
Yeah, we all just did this because we like writing about games, / for
and
some reason liked going to industry events and covering them.
Nick Brecken, I hired at Shack News when I was editor there, but we knew Nick before that because Nick had also submitted articles to Idle Thumbs.
Yep.
Like the print site.
Yeah, yep.
So that's how we all know each other.
So, Kevin...
So Idle Thumbs actually is the reason a lot of us kind of know each other the way we do.
Idle Thumbs, yeah, we all know each other through Idle Thumbs from the internet. It's pretty weird.
Yeah.
Kevin Karcher says, no questions, just keep up the good work.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Andrew Lloyd Webber, composer, says, how widely traveled are you all? What countries have you been? What countries have been your favorite to visit? As a kid, I went traveling with my family a bit, but my favorite country that is not the United States is probably the UK.
Me
Probably
too.
England.
Yep, same here.
Um,
And if I were to live anywhere outside of the United States, I would live in London for sure. In fact, if I were to live anywhere outside
Well, let's see
of
here.
San Francisco,
I
or
would
New York,
say I would
live
say
in London.
probably the United States, followed by England, followed by Australia, followed by what's our viewership
Zealand,
charts? Yeah,
like,
New Zealand. Just roll down the list of where our listeners come from.
Germany,
Yeah.
probably.
Germany, France, Canada,
Yeah.
Anywhere where there's a high
Thumb.
readership. Yeah,
Thumb
that's
around the
all,
entire
all of my favorites. I like them all the same. Tell your friends.
I was born in Ireland. I don't know if people know that, so my family's all from there. I like it there a lot. I worked in China for 7 months. I like Shanghai a lot. Been to Rome.
Someone asks, oh, Rome's great. I've been to Italy a number of times.
Rome.
because
I would probably live in Rome.
I'm of
I would
Italian-
probably live in Rome.
Italian descent.
And I would I would become a weird person, but I would live in Rome for sure. Also, I would really like to go back to China for like a protracted period of time, but that's probably never gonna happen again.
Someone asked if we like England because they speak English there. And in my case, I mean, that helps. That's a reason I could live there without needing to worry about anything. But specifically, I love London in particular.
Yeah.
And that's because I love cities. I love dense, urban, big cities. So
You should go to
I love
Shanghai.
New York as well. No, I would
It's
love to.
fucking shit house.
So I love New York as well for that reason. And like London is... I like places where you can walk, have public transportation, and where there are lots of things in close proximity.
Yeah.
Like, I just like that feeling.
It-
I like being in the middle of
It
like,
is kind of a
human
cheat though,
shit.
in that they do speak English, and I have friends who live in London, which makes it an easily accessible place for me to go.
That helps
Like,
too, yeah.
But yeah,
Um,
Sean lived. Yeah, someone asked if Sean lived in Shanghai. You did because you worked. Disney sent you out there for a while.
Yeah, I was there for like half a year. It was awesome. It was formative. It was fucking great. Yeah.
Okay. Brian Lewis says Elder Scrolls Online, dumb idea or really dumb idea? We'll see, I guess.
Who's to say? I don't know.
I don't
So
know.
much about that game is just
Yeah,
about being
I
alone
don't
to
really
me.
think I know anything about that game, to be honest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean about Elder Scrolls itself?
Yeah, so much about
yeah,
those
for
games
sure.
is just
That'll be weird.
Oh,
being
man.
alone.
Intense question coming up. Death Rodent says, "Whatevs."
Cool. Jintor
Thanks, Death Dragon.
says
You're the best.
the established/traditional form of gaming journalism and its value in the current media landscape. There's probably more of it than there needs to be.
More
Which-
games journalism.
Yeah, which probably has the aggregate effect of lessening the amount of time anyone spends in an individual example of it, because there
Do
is...
you mean there's more outlets, or there people just within a single outlet cover more stuff than they
No,
need
I
to?
mean there's more outlets. Like,
You
sorry,
talk
go
about this a lot, and I think that it's just because you're exposed to games journalism. Because if you read the modern film entertainment landscape online and in print, that's also way overcovered as well. I mean,
Well, I'm not saying other things aren't.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I think
I will accept the nickname Wu-Tang Vanaman from the chat. That's in the chat right now. I'll accept that.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
I mean, I think enthusiast press in general might just have way more of it than there needs to be.
I don't agree with that at all,
Uh-huh.
because I think the point, like one of the things that I think is great about the fact that the internet exists is that anyone can do that, and I guess maybe if you're a PR person, you feel the weight of that more, but as a reader, I think you have infinite ability to select the thing that you like also just through things like Twitter and Facebook and all that other shit, things that your friends refer you to, the fact that all that stuff exists doesn't mean you have to read it, but it does give a lot more people an opportunity to have a voice and to rise up and become a voice that is worth hearing. I would not wish that we went back to the era of print only, where you had your avenues for success are tiny. People like Duncan Fife or like Jen Frank, I don't think would be able to exist writing interesting things if we didn't have the ability for them to start tiny weird blogs that no one knows about.
Sure, although then someone like Duncan Fife gets kind of burned out because no one's ever going to pay him to do what he does, because there's the problem with this system now is that it ends up constricting opportunity in other weird ways, where there are so many people trying to do it and so many people willing to do it for almost no money that you end up just devaluing it. Maybe you individually aren't going to go read all those sites, but the people actually paying contractors are aware that there's a bajillion people out there. So
That's true.
There is so much supply and so little demand that the people doing the demand, i.e. the people on payroll, can afford to just basically pay people nothing. So the people who actually do end up trying to make a living at it have to overwork themselves to the max to try and get enough contracts with a very meager dollar per word total coming in. Like, it just ends
That's
up
fair.
really messing with the ecosystem, I think. But as you say, it's what the internet is. So I mean, like, it's just kind of the reality. Like, I don't know if you can do anything about that.
Right.
Anyway, Josh Papak says, you know that part in Ghostbusters where Dan Aykroyd got a BJ from a ghost? What's up with that? Was there like an actual ghost giving him a BJ, or was he just dreaming about it? That part seemed weird to me.
I think it's fair to confirm that he likes the girls, and that's what that scene was meant to establish.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's not what that scene is meant to establish, but you have to. It's a little mystery. It's a little sort of. If you see that scene and wonder what's going on, and then you hear the theme at the end, and it says he likes the girls, you can at least assume.
Well, busting makes him feel good.
Wasn't there? There was a ghost floating over him, but then the ghost turned invisible when his pants came off. I want to say one thing about Ghostbusters for a second, which is stupid, but the reason that I think, or a thing that I like about it's one tiny scene and one tiny moment in Ghostbusters, but it's my favorite thing in that movie, which is there's this little scene at the candy bar where it's Bill Murray, I think, gives what Egon, actor's name I can't goddamn remember. He hands him the candy bar and then he takes it away and says, "You burned it." And then you remember that scene? God, it's I'm never. Sorry. There's a moment in Ghostbusters where the two characters are just having a stupid little riff between themselves, and then they just cut to a shot of Dan Aykroyd who just like quietly enjoying the conversation to himself. And it's my favorite stupid thing in the entire world because it's a moment that would never be in a modern version of that movie, and it also really encapsulates. This is such a stupid thing to talk about. Someone said Ghostbusters, and I thought about it recently. Sorry.
Go on.
It really encapsulates correctly the feeling of being an introverted person who's hanging out with extroverted friends who you enjoy being with, but you aren't participating in the conversation. It's just that one shot of Dan Aykroyd smiling is my favorite thing in the world because it was a directorial choice and an acting choice about a thing that's never mentioned. But like Ghostbusters 2 doesn't have any of that shit. A modern, wacky movie would never have that. It's good. That's why Ghostbusters is good. That's all.
I brought you full screen for that.
Thanks.
For that point there.
You brought me full screen?
Yeah, look, you're right there. Down there, full screen.
Oh, right, Harold Ramis. Thank you. God, Christ. Where are we? Ghostbusters BJs. Please discuss how cool http://
You gotta start saying these folks' names.
Oh, Mpika
Hey.
says...
That staff image was from Mpika.
Oh, good. Please discuss how cool http://gdne.ws is and how much you love it and that everyone else should love it. Also, some more about Wizards.
But actually, what is it? It's so Mpika does have like a it's a news
cool.
aggregator that is actually cool that I look at.
So it's
Do people still use that?
I've been looking at it.
Okay.
It's like less updated. I'm not good at contributing to those things, so I'm the worst community member for that stuff ever. But you guys aren't.
It's
GD News with a dot in between, or like before the WS.
It's like it's modeled after Hacker News, which is a startup news aggregator, which is basically just if you imagine one subreddit without any of the rest of Reddit. That's basically what it is, but for game development related news. It is a good site.
But you know what? Hilarious is we're connected to a computer. We keep going.
We can let it up. Dmitry Ivanov says, terrible games you love that everyone else hates.
I don't know, because I don't think of things that I love as terrible usually.
But I do things that are like acquired.
Yeah.
Like this is just something I'm really into. I feel like I have a lot of those.
The soundproofing looks like a baffled Goatsy. Everyone sees Goatseys
Someone else said
everywhere.
it looks like the old EA logo, which I could see.
Yeah, that's that. Who sees Goatseys everywhere? I mean, seriously. That's not
Jake is amidst the Goatsy.
that's not a thing that people experience. Deadly Premonition is a decent example of that, I guess, maybe. Based on the IGN review, God Hand, except I know a lot of people love that game.
I love that game.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that game deserved the low review that it got. Like, I don't think it's a terrible game. That's the thing, right? Like, A game that, let's take the word terrible off because you're fixating on that. Game that you love that everyone else hates. Far Cry 2. 2 is an example of that. A lot of people hate that
Next,
game.
okay. Patrick Happel asks, what's the best beer you've had? Oh, Jesus. A good one. Like the best around.
Pliny the Elder is amazing.
That is good.
It's
That's
really,
a good
really
one.
great.
Let's settle. Next.
Look at you. You're on the
we
move.
gotta go.
Where are you going?
Through
to the other, like, bajillion questions. That's where we're going.
yeah, we're like a third of the way through. Crazy. Nunami asks, with mobile and handheld gaming getting more and more advanced, there seems to be a lot of remakes or re-releases of games that used to be console or PC games. Why are games that we used to spend hours in front of TV playing now being played on a 3DS or iPhone? Is it just fun on the go? Is it just nostalgia? Or is our appetite for games changed?
I think there's just a market for it. I don't think it has to do with people are buying them and the hardware can run them. And it makes financial sense to bring those things over. I think Square is making a bunch of money on their iOS ports. They're like $15 for
it's also
Chrono Trigger on iOS.
That's
it's expensive. It's $14.99 to get It's
they're
weird.
also, it's just possible because they're games that are those games were made originally to be played at low resolution, and these are even though a modern smartphone actually has a much higher resolution than those games, but the screen's very small, so it's effectively still you want less stuff on the screen.
Yeah.
So that's I think a big part of it probably is that people associate those devices with less outrageous experiences, and that includes a game that was released in like 1993 probably.
And I don't know if this is what he's or she is discussing, but handheld and mobile stuff, the other sort of crossover direction is people play a lot of games that are similar to a book. Like I think there's a lot of really simple narrative games that have found a home on mobile that used to be a weirdly PC only thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like simple adventure games or like even just interactive novel type stuff. Like Seeing the Last Express being part of the iOS makes a ton of sense.
Interactive fiction, you mean? Like text?
No, I mean like it makes sense to me that there are games that are meant to be played in a contemplative, very slow-paced way, like a Broken Sword game, or something even like The Last Express, where it's just all about narrative. Like people sitting in bed watching a TV show or reading a book on their iPad. It makes sense that an adventure game that was like a game that was it had its heyday in '90s PC culture is now back as a thing, just because it's in bed instead of in front of a chair, but it's still that solitary, very contemplative experience.
Yeah.
Games. Oh my god, there's a long ass question coming up here. But no, we're not there yet. Some comic book recommendations. Oh man.
That's from Michael Hartog.
Michael Hartog says some comic book recommendations. Please see an hour ago.
But if maybe he joined in the middle, we'll quickly say Preacher, Transmetropolitan, From Hell.
What else did
and then you said some of the stuff from
Chester Brown is great.
Yeah, that is good.
God, who else?
I haven't read his stuff, but a guy who we worked with on The Walking Dead, who's actually on the Skybound Kirkman side, a guy named Cena Grace, has a new comic book out that I haven't read yet. So I'm not recommending it, but check it out. That guy, he's new. So
Charles Burns is really good.
Yeah. Oh, Garfield.
Classic.
Oh man.
All right, Brian Belitas says video game golf. I have no opinion on this.
I've heard that.
Oh, you do. Do you not remember in Pismo Beach?
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, what is that game?
Stickman Golf?
Stickman Golf. Stickman Ultra Golf or something.
I think Giant Bomb just did a stream where they played Sid Meier's Sim Golf, and Sim Meier was involved in the stream, and that seems worth paying attention to.
Oh, wow.
Also, play Zany Golf on your Amiga or Apple IIgs. Circadian Wolf says -- which
Good point.
Yep. Which is good because Game Dreamer says a full paragraph. Are we going to read this whole
It's a
thing?
long paragraph too. Well,
yeah.
It's your day, Chris.
It's $200.
Let's see
Read
if
the
we
paragraph,
can,
goddammit.
let's see if we can dynamically.
Read the paragraph!
It reads the paragraph whenever it's told.
2 games were released recently that were both a third entry in their respective series and were each developed by a different developer than the original 2 preceding titles. Max Payne 3, developed by Rockstar Games this time. Okay, I'm going to start paraphrasing this. I'm sorry. Max Payne 3 by Rockstar instead of Remedy. Diablo 3 by Blizzard, but not Blizzard North. When talking to people who picked up both games, I learned at least 85% of them had never played Max Payne 2, Diablo, or Diablo 2. This makes me feel old. I'm only 25, so I'll get shit for that. It saddens me that not one of those people will ever experience the original title without their view of them being skewed by the recent games. How do you feel about this? Does it upset you, or are you just content to be grateful they were able to play them or that you were able to originally play them when they came out and happy you experienced them? I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and it ties into a number of issues. The flip side is that Deus Ex Human Revolution was a fantastic game that may inspire a new generation of gamers to play the original Deus Ex, a game that I think should be played by everyone. I'll end this here, it's getting long.
Oh, you didn't read the most important part of that
No.
email.
What is it?
We'll close out the question with this important follow-up.
Okay. I'm going to go to the bathroom, but I will say it doesn't bum me out probably as much as it bums you guys out.
I'm actually not bothered by it personally, but that's because, like, I sort of subscribe to the later half of his point, which is I wish people would go back and play old games. People are not predisposed to, but things like Deus Ex 3 I think are awesome because that game, while it's made by a different team, has enough of a foundation in Deus Ex that it could make someone actually curious to go back and look at the older stuff, which I don't know if that happens all the time, but
yeah, I think it probably happens rarely on balance. If it was happening to most people, then we'd hear about
sure.
Deus Ex 1 suddenly selling a bajillion copies right now. But I think that's...
It actually seems more likely in games than other mediums that will happen. Maybe that's not true.
I don't think that's true. I think if a movie's coming out, there's a sequel to a thing. I can go see the one that's 2 hours long, and I can just go watch it on Netflix or whatever in an evening.
That's true. Game sequels seem closer to me to filmic remakes, though, and I don't think that if someone watches a reboot of some ancient, of a movie license that's 20 years old, I think people seeing The Thing, maybe it's the same, people who saw the current The Thing, for some reason, assuming that was good, which I don't particularly, I haven't heard that it was, I didn't see it. What do you think the percent of people who go and watch John Carpenter's The Thing is relative to the percentage of people who play Deus Ex 3 on Steam and then go buy Deus Ex 1?
I don't know, it's probably about
the same. Yeah. It doesn't really bother me just because it's just, I know that's how people buy things.
It's how people are. What I hope is that there is a subset of gamers who are interested in that thing. We were kind of, I don't think this made it on the podcast, but we had a discussion a few weeks ago about kind of the idea of the video game canon and people playing games that are prior to their own era where they're directly marketed to as a demographic. And I think it's obvious that most people are never, in games or movies or anything, going to go back and play a bunch of old things that were made before they were playing those things. But what I hope is the case is that there's a certain subset of people
who just get really into it.
Right.
Yeah. And that seems to exist. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that long term, but it's not a thing that doesn't happen. Also, it's worth pointing out that Game Dreamer closes out his remarks with a thing that has not happened yet, but is important to mention on the Ruinationcast. Shitty, Wizard, Horsebag, Scoops, Horn, Baboo, Bird Noise, Bloom, Games, Jeff Gold, Phaedrus Hole, and Nick Brecken playing a saxophone.
Good, we got that taken care of.
That's out of the way, thank you.
Christopher Goodnow says, you guys do well enough on your own, you don't need me putting my 2 cents in. Well, thanks.
Thanks. Also, thanks for putting in your 2 cents as well as the rest of your Kickstarter donations.
The $199.98.
Jason Backer says Homer. Chris? Homer.
I'm not super up on my classics, really, to be honest. I never really studied that stuff. I read Greek myths when I was a kid. But
Reese Dooley
says...
says...
talking about Homer Simpson.
That's fine. We all did. Chris didn't.
Really?
No, I actually didn't, but I thought we were going to talk about both. We're talking about the slang term for a home run in baseball. Reese Dooley says, what's the ideal price point for a lap dance, both from a stripper and a consumer perspective? This is the question that when it came in, we said, oh god, the Ruinationcast is going to be weird. Because we thought we were going to just get this kind of stuff forever.
I would say whatever the market can bear.
Well,
I think
true for asking a question about a price, right? About anything.
Yeah. I think you have to refer to just straight up basic economic principles.
There are some multiple point graphs involved in this.
Yeah.
But Craig Ostrin asks, why do you prefer writing video games as 2 words? Because it's 2 words.
Yeah, I'm against just making things 1 word for no reason.
I
think they refreshed the chat.
Motion pictures is not 1 word.
I think I'm a fan for sure of, instead of making up a new term for something, having the content of what it is define what it is, I guess. Yeah. I'm really glad that the Beatles didn't change their name and also didn't declare that they were not making rock music over the course of their existence.
Right.
That's...
Also, you have games and you have video games.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems to make sense to me.
Video games is 2 words. Deal with it.
It's 3 words.
Deal with it is 3 words. Unless it's in GIF form, in which case it's a compound word.
Muhammad Al-Badr writes, awesome dead video games franchises? I don't know what that means.
He wants to talk about video game franchises, Star Control.
Oh, that are dead now. Oh, Star Control, yeah, it's a good one. Good job.
Other ones?
Other...
Whatever.
Super Black Bass.
X-Wing.
Dead video game franchises?
Yeah.
Daniel Burns says, what do you think are the most over and underused game mechanics or tropes? Well, the ones that are overused are most of the ones that are used. fantasy, sci-fi, ancient evil shit, killing a guy. Those seem pretty overused.
I really like third-person, really tactile world traversal, and I feel like that is underused in interesting ways and overused in things like Assassin's Creed, where it's mostly used for just getting you from place to place. Like games where actually interacting with the physical structure of the space by way of a controller is something that I really, really like, but there's not a lot of games that use it in a way that I really find interesting. So I don't know if that's over and underused, but that's a thing that I like. That's all I'm going to say. But someone else can say something that's real. Over and underused. Games. Tropes.
Underused, I think, hyper-specific historical moments. I think you could do something like...
Also see Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Like, hyper-specific, I would say, as opposed to broadly specific, Assassin's Creed is.
Right.
I hope the stream is still going. The chat's not loading.
The stream's going with the chat. Twitch is just its own...
Anybody I know is watching this, and it's not working well, text me.
Please do not text him unless that's actually the case.
Yeah.
Twitch. Anyway. What's next?
But no, what I was going to say, sorry, really quick, is that I think you could look at, like, what would, like, movies do it all the time, but, like, what would it be like